Okay. All right, so I'll just go ahead and start. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to another edition of my HR Storybook Live Series. Thank you so much for making out some time out of your Sunday to come and share and learn. This is going to be another fun learning platform where we use the concept of storytelling and speed mentoring to learn together and share. Storytelling is a powerful and beautiful act that helps create connections, evoke emotions, and spur actions. And this is a concept that helps us to relate one to another, listen and learn from our real life lessons and issues. Because research has actually shown that people learn more from stories. For myself, most of the learnings that I have in life were from stories that when I was much younger. So my HR storybook uses this concept of virtual collection of some of the finest, brightest, and seasoned HR professionals. We invite them here to come and share from their wealth of knowledge and wealth of experience. So we have the honor today to have someone who is a very dear sister to me, Olapeju Kayode-Aluko. I would invite her in a bit, but before we invite Peju, I'd like to play an intro video ahead. Just give me a minute, please, and relax as I play this intro video. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon once again. It's an honor and a pleasure to have with us our first female speaker in the house today, Peju Kayode-Aluko. I'm just going to read out her profile in a bit. So Peju is a senior vice president, corporate services at Gentle Capital Partners Limited. Peju has over 16 years of technical and management experience in the Nigerian financial and energy sector. At Argental, she currently oversees a multidisciplinary division. Wow, that's a powerful one. Peju, you need to share that secret with us, how you're able to manage and handle multidisciplinary divisions, where she has successfully managed the systems that support the people to deliver impact through their project, putting in place operational structures and processes in an intense period of growth. Wow, I find that very profound. Before, Pedro has held the position of Vice President of Services at Ocean and Oil Holdings, OOH, and prior to then, she was Head Human Resources at both OOH and OPS Limited, a manpower provisioning outfit and a subsidiary of Ocean and Oil Holdings, Wando Holdings. At Intercontinental Bank, now Access Bank, where she's worked before she resigned as the deputy head of alumni relations and regulatory bodies. She's worked in various capacities within the Human Capital Management Division and Strategic Human Resources Division, where she handled talent strategy and executive search. Peju is an alumnus of University of Lagos and the Lagos Business School. She's a member of CB UK and a member of CIPM Nigeria. She has the GPHR certification as well, and a member of the Institute of Directors, IOD Nigeria. Wow, Peju, you have done so well. You're someone that I admire so much as a friend. And reading through your profile, I see how you've progressed over the years across various industries, various roles, and We would like to hear from you. Can you share your career journey with us and what has specifically helped you to manage to navigate as you progress through your career? On that note, we'd like to invite Peju and hear her story so we can learn from her career journey. Peju, over to you. Thank you.
I have just unmuted myself. Can you hear me, Lara?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Good afternoon, my HR professionals. Firstly, I'd like to pay homage to Lara Yeku, who is the brain behind this initiative. Lara, well done for what you're doing, you know, for giving back. I say thank you. You know, Lara has not just been a friend in this rewarding HR space, but she's also been one that has inspired me, you know, in her journey. So thank you, Lara, for asking me to share on this platform. And to everyone who is joined today, I hope that, you know, I want you to know that I'm going to be speaking my truth and I'm going to be honest about my journey and trust that you'll be able to gain some insights, you know, towards also having, you know, a rewarding HR career and even beyond that, because I've now moved away from HR to do other things. So hopefully just having a fulfilled career life, seeing that people are staying more, you know, having longer careers these days. Some of the names that Lara have called, I acknowledge some of you on the HRD network. Welcome, those are my seniors. And I'd like to say thank you for being here. So I'm going to take a deep dive into my story. I've written some notes here. I'm not going to be sharing any slides so that makes it quite easy in telling the story. And hopefully we can take questions afterwards. Lara, if that's fine, should I go ahead?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, please go
So
ahead.
how would I describe my journey? I think my HR journey has been both rewarding and fulfilling. That's sort of how I would describe the journey, not because it's not been reading with a lot of obstacles, but I'm quite happy that I chose this career or sort of found myself in line with the goals that I had set. So I studied, I have a background in insurance and actuarial science from the University of Lagos. And after a brief stint in, you know, in being an entrepreneur, if I can call it like that way, between when I graduated and the end of my NYC, I actually had this brainwave about going into entrepreneurship. But then haven't seen it for that period, I thought, no, this isn't, you know, I liked the engagement with the people, but I guess the commercial side of it wasn't something that I really was interested in. So at the end of the NYC program, I took a number of assessment tests and I did successfully pass 3 exams. Of the 3 that I wrote, I was successful in the 3. And what I did at the time was to evaluate which one was going to give me the best opportunity. So out of the 3, I thought, you know, Intercontinental Bank had the brand equity. Now I know that's what it is. I mean, at the time, I didn't know that was what it was, but I just knew that they had gained a lot of traction in what they're doing in terms of commercial, in terms of their ranking at the time as well. So I looked at it and thought Intercontinental Bank was going to give me, which is now Access Bank, because there was a merger at some point. So I thought it was going to give me a better opportunity. And so to note that, you know, from time, I'd always been strategic about my choices. And I was told that even when I was younger, that was the way it was, that if I needed to get something and it wasn't available at Christmas, I was willing to wait till Easter to ensure that that was what it was that I got. So at the conclusion of my graduate training program, I was posted to a branch which was quite far out. It was in Lagos, but it was quite a far branch, and I was posted to do customer service. Afterwards, I was moved to consumer banking, which is now called retail banking. I was there for a while, even though I was hitting my targets, you know, and was considered a high performer. I found very little fulfillment in it. In clear terms, it wasn't just an area of interest. And I knew that very, very quickly. You know, one thing I knew was that I wanted, maybe my goal, let me put it this way. My goal was to be visible wherever I worked and also be involved in the day-to-day decisions. But you know that Intercontinental was a very big bank at the time. So to do that from the branch was going to be a tall order. So I just thought, look, it'd be nice to be at the head office. But while I did it, I made sure that as with how I set and achieved my goals, I was, meeting my set objectives within the branch. So an opportunity came up within human resources. But let me quickly say that before the opening came up in employee relations in HR, the head of HR had come to our branch. He was on his way to Badagry, and he had, stopped by because he wanted to use the restroom. Incidentally, and maybe I would say fortunately, I was the only one in the marketing department upstairs. And, he came in, asked for where the restroom was. I showed him on his way out. I quickly ran after him. I said, do you remember me from training school? He said, yes. I said, I actually wanted to be in one of the units in the head office, but I ended up in the branch. He said, oh, but openings come up every now and again. I should look up for openings. So this opening wasn't one that because if you go for your marketing calls and come back, the last thing you're looking to do is probably catch up on your emails because you're tired and ready to go home. So I'd missed the window for the opportunity. But I found myself at the head office one day, and I walked into HR, spoke to somebody that I knew and said, look, you know what? I'm actually looking for an opportunity within HR. And she said to me, didn't you see the opening, but it's closed now. Didn't you see the opening that was publicized on the intramural? I was like, oh, okay, I didn't see it. But the long and short of it was, she said, would you like to see the head of HR? So you can imagine a tiny executive trainee walking and thinking, shaking it in my mind. But I was thinking, well, this is an opportunity. I better take it or leave it. So what I did was I decided to go into the head of HR's office. And you know what those offices are like. So I managed to walk all the way, shaking, and then, stood in front of him, but he said to sit down, had a conversation. I said, well, the opening, it's closed, and they had done most of the interviews, and they were looking to, recruit. They had taken a decision. So I said, okay. So I got up, so I said, thank you. The worst that would happen is that he would say no, which was what had happened. And just before I took a few steps, he just said, okay. And then I reminded him that I was the one who had spoken to him at the branch. So he said, oh, so you do actually have an interest in coming to the head office to make an impact and be an integral part of this? I said, yes. And so that's how he said, you know what, would you be able to do an interview immediately? I was like, oh my God, in my mind. Of course, I wasn't prepared for the interview, but guess what? I also said yes to him. So I went to the bathroom quickly, maybe my jacket was in the car, quickly wore the jacket, prepared for the interview. And I had, 6 departmental heads who were asking me questions about HR, which I obviously did not really have much knowledge in, but to the extent that I could, I answered all the questions. And the long story short was that I got, recruited for the employee relations role. So what would I say at this point was I've always been a self-aware person, just sort of my personality, my individuality, who I am and what I'm able to do. So I don't really let things get in the way. So if there's something that I, want and how to address it, I usually would just, go for it. I'm always very intentional. I think one of the attributes that I often also display is just being proactive in the things that I want. So I hadn't stayed long. I was just about a year or so in the brand. So it wasn't, and I was doing very well. So it wasn't really something I should actually be yearning for at the time. But then I thought, this isn't where I want to be. I might as well start this journey now. And then one thing I think I took from one of my parents is just being, having clearly defined goals. Because as long as I've remembered my mom, she's always writing something about something she wants to achieve. So I think that I got from her, fortunately. So I went on to HR, and I'm going to keep this bit a bit short because, did the entire length and breadth just so that we can take questions. We went through the entire length and breadth of HR. And this was all together. When I left, I was in a unit that was just created known as the alumni relations, because the bank had grown. We had people who had exited due to the merger and acquisitions. So during my period as well, there were 2 mergers and acquisitions, which obviously on the DD side of the HR bit, I was also involved at some point within the 2 mergers. So in that 8 years, I went through all the departments, but how was I, maybe on someone's mind is, how was I able to do this? One thing was I always made myself available. I wasn't a dumping ground, but I was someone who always offered, myself to do. So whether I was volunteering, things that were beyond the scope of my role, I was always volunteering to do them. So, by that, I was broadening my skills in other areas. And if an opportunity came up, and then also for ad hoc responsibilities that were required. And it wasn't just me, there were colleagues like me as well who did this together. And when the opportunities came up, I was always considered for those roles. And that's how I was able to move around all the various departments. And this also speaks to, being intentional and just seeking opportunities and being committed to, I would say, professional development. Even though I hadn't written in those early days, all my exams, but I had started writing some, and also just basically improving my skills. So during the 8th year in my career, 8+ years, I decided that I wanted to take some personal time off just to attend to some on the personal front. And lo and behold, as fate will have it, I wasn't going to do that because a week after I was resuming into another job. So of course, yes. So the side of me that is quite ambitious saw this very ambitious role that was available at Owando Holdings, Ocean and Oil Holdings, the head of HR role, which obviously had an age limit that was probably like about 8 years beyond, or almost 9 years beyond my age. And I mean, they had said that not because they wouldn't take someone younger, but just to kind of give you an idea, because it was a holding company and there were, a number of subsidiaries under those companies. So it was important that you had someone who was mature. So again, it seemed like I lacked, the depth of the experience that was required and also the age, but that wasn't something that stopped me. So I didn't go for what I wanted to do, but on the personal front, I decided to take on this role. So at this point, in settling into the role, you can only imagine that it was quite challenging because inadvertently, an obstacle had been created because it was as though they were waiting for me in there to come and see what I could do. I got the job, it was quite tough, but then I came in and I knew that I had to hit the ground and start running. Now, what did I do? I started in, it almost seemed like also between the bank and getting that job, I had sort of skipped a band within, the grade level. So it was almost like between middle management and senior management, I missed some years. So what was I going to do? Locked myself up, no social, I'm quite a social person, no social events, started reading, reaching out to people who had done the roles before. And, in 1 year, I was being considered and was given a promotion. So, be confident in your abilities and your knowledge is what I would say in summarizing that. And just, also be immune to discouraging words by being bold, assertive when you have to be, but always be respectful. I always say to people, when you're assertive, make sure there's a thin line there where sometimes you may come across as, being, overly confident, but, say what you have to say, because if people are already waiting for you to fail, then you want to ensure that you are there to either speak up for yourself or, demonstrate that the job is yours. So, so I would say that if there's any time that was really challenging, it was this time. Because as soon as I was promoted, I was made Vice President Corporate Services for a number of units, HR, IT, admin at the time. And then when I demonstrated even more capabilities for more responsibilities, there was a business that was established, which was a manpower provisioning firm called OPSL. And this was for us to provide manpower to, and you know, everything within that ambit to rig guys who were about 200 rig guys in Port Harcourt. So that had me traveling out of town, you know, relating with people. And if anybody's worked with people in the rig, employees in the rig, they know, you know, that they're a different set of, you need a different set of skill set to work with them. So that was something that really stretched me at that age, and given that I was just coming into that role. So what would I say? I think a positive mindset is not negotiable in just knowing that no problem. And one of the mantras that I've come to accept as a person and have is that no obstacle is insurmountable. And I leave it, you know, because I feel like once a problem, in fact, it's as if I'm always looking to solve a problem or solution part time. So there's none of it that is, there's no problem that, you know, doesn't have a solution, is what I would say. 3 years into that position, a job opportunity came up in Argentine. Let me say here that sometimes job titles can be misleading. So, you know, be careful to value what you attach to those job titles, because it was going to be the same job titles, but this had more opportunities within it. So I was now going to do more within Argentine. I was going to be given more responsibilities. Finance was going to be added to it. This was an area that I had no knowledge of. There were a few other things, just the prospects of also understanding like private equity, investment banking, and the rest of it, and just, you know, a broader scope. It was the same level, but I moved to that job. So just to say that to HR professionals that are out there who are looking to move those, that sometimes it may be the same job title, but the opportunities within the organization can be different. So I made my way to management. I was promoted to senior vice president, which is the role that I have here. And I've paid attention mostly to a lot of the technical skills that is required. But very quickly, I realized that it was no longer going to be sufficient in this role. Once you start moving to executive management, C-suites, there are other competencies that you require. And I've noted some, you know, relationship management. I mean, off the top of my head, I can mention relationship management is very key. Your understanding of the business, you know, entrepreneurial thinking. I mean, the other day, you know, it had nothing to do with, we're looking at, this was at the beginning of the pandemic, and we're looking at, you know, where to get testing done and how to make that arrangement for COVID. And, you know, we realized all the names that are on the list now, 2 of them we were already engaging with them, because the Argentine has also made an investment into a company that partnered with 54 Gene, who is at the forefront of testing for COVID-19 now, using technology. So I was having a conversation with somebody in another testing outfit, and they were talking about mobile, you know, mobile labs. And instead of just focusing on what I wanted to talk about, which was how do I get my employees tested, I was saying, oh, but these mobile labs that you want to get, there's an investee company that can provide these for you. So this was me doing business development alongside trying to provide that for. So that is it for anyone else, anyone who is moving into C-suite, anyone who is moving into that employee engagement cadre. I mean, sorry, executive management cadre. I guess these are things that you need to look out for. To say at this point as well is that HR has far left a support function, and I'm sure that we all know that. It's now a full-blown business partnering function, and the knowledge of the business is very important. So I guess I'd summarized and that, you know, networking as well is very important, reading wide. So I think what I've noted there is just ensuring that you're able to read wide, network, not just outside of the firm, but also internally with people who are in the business. That way, once you have friends who are in the core, client-facing part of business, the quicker it is for you to understand how things are done and what is going on in that side of the business as well. So they will be able to school you. So for every part of this career decision that I did, I made sure that I did my research with regards to whether the organization's values aligned with my values, and also the advancement opportunities within there. I would also say that mentors played a very great part. The first mentor that I got was just opportunistic. I mean, she just decided to take me on. One of the things that she said to me was that I applied myself to the job, and she knew that I was somebody that she wanted to invest her time with. But the second time I got a mentor in the HR space was somebody I had, admired, and I decided to ask. And, they are always offering tips based on their experiences. So aside from these competencies, I think one of the other things I wanted to mention is that I'm quite a loyal person, and commitment and dedication is one of the things that, the guys who own any organization, the management of any firm is looking for that person who is doing the job as though they own it. Because someone will be thinking, what are the things that, because that's what I put myself on the other side, and I said, what would you be thinking of that, I put in here to make me succeed in this area? So I'd say loyalty is one thing, dedication, commitment is just some of the things that I've also put in. Also, I would say that one other one would be the structure that I have back home. So I have a very supportive husband. I've, sort of surrounded myself with positive individuals who also buy into what I'm trying to do. So what you hear is people who are cheering you on. And where compensation is commensurate, please, you can put structure in place so that you can focus on more strategic things. But if you're still very early in your career and you're unable to pay for those things, just make sure, but when you can, make sure you get reliable hands that can do certain things for you to ensure that you're able to focus on the other areas that are important. Okay, so just to talk about the other things so as I grew in my career, I realized that I would like to give back, because that's something that definitely comes to the minds of people as they rise through the ranks. But, somehow you're very confused as to what area, how to give back. So in more recent times, what I have done is I've observed, everybody here, I want to believe, are HR professionals, and we know what the job market is like, with that number straddling between 21 and 25 million individuals, in the job market. And, about 35% of that are youth. So I have committed to having youth empowerment programs, trying to bridge the skills gap that are within there, doing my part in training and teaching. So those are some of the things that I've done in more recent times. So I guess as you grow and have, increase in your wealth of experience, you have to find a way to give back to this society who has also helped you become who you are. And then you need to take responsibility in the growth of those that are coming, which is one of these things. So if you ask Lara, I never used to speak. I never used to do any of these things. I'd rather stay in my little corner and do my work. But, I just realized that that's not something that you can do. As much as you have a lot to give, I guess that's something that you should look at if you haven't started. So some of the success tips that I would say that I have helped me. And, depending on it doesn't matter what the faith is, but I'm going to say this, that my secret tip has been my faith in God. And I'm a Christian, and I'm a devout Christian. And this journey wouldn't have been easy, because there's some things that have happened where I know that I have won them on my knees. So it's not, it's not just been a walk in the park. God has been a major factor in that. And to not acknowledge that, I think I would be, I would be doing wrong in saying that. But and that has made me stay grounded to have a thriving career. I've been very intentional, in setting myself apart. So if there's an edge, I taught a course recently, and I was saying that how they can have a competitive advantage. So I've always just been that person who is made sure that my skill set is in the right, or even beyond what is required, because I'm just proactive. I'm looking into the future and thinking what else, how else, what's on the minds of the bosses, what's on the mind of the CEO. That's something that has not only helped me, but make me marketable internally and also to recruiters, even though I'm not looking to move now, but yes, internally. I think technological advancement as well is one thing that I've equipped myself, not necessarily social media, some of it, but yes, that's not something about internally, because I also oversee IT. I, have a good grasp of that space now, and finance. So in conclusion, I would say that HR is a space that, requires passion. And, because sometimes I find, I've met some HR people who just see the job as a means to an end. And HR is not one of those professions. Maybe there are some, but practicing HR and practicing it to succeed in it is one that requires you to have passion, requires you to be resilient, because there are a number of things that will be thrown at you that you have to handle internally. Strategic thinking capability, which is something that has always come up even when I was in the bank, as early as maybe second grade level in the bank, I was already getting this in my appraisal. And there's a form that has been, there's a survey that they currently do in Access Bank today. I want to say that, it was being done manually at the time, but just in assessing engagement, which would come around employee experience now that I developed. So that's something that I definitely know that anybody should have, and that would be useful to, the owners of the business, the CEO, the shareholders, anybody who has a say, in any business would definitely want that person on board. Emotional intelligence is something that has always come up as well from the start of my career to date in managing people. And so those are some of the secrets that I can share and my story. And like I said, it's been very fulfilling. The obstacles that I have encountered along the way have been exciting. And just even ensuring that I give back and make an impact is something that's even more exciting for me now. This is my story. And I hope that someone has been able to learn one or two things.
Wow. Peju, this is so phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing. You were very detailed in sharing your story, right from when you were young to mid-level to senior executive level. And another critical part that I picked out of your story is the need for us to bring in balance into our career. You talked about career, but you've talked about parenting, you've talked about your family, you've talked about friends, talked about community and giving back. And so a lot of time when we look at career journey, it's not just only about work or the positions that we occupy, but it's really around how we also contribute and give back to our community. And thank you so much, Peju, because you're accepting to be on my HR Storybook Live Series is a way of giving back. I tell people that our stories are gifts. You never can tell who is going through that experience or that event that you've gone through, and that person might only just be getting the answers that they need to help them or to strengthen them through their own career journey. Thank you so much, Kweju. That was really deep. I have the first question here from Temi. Temi is of University of Lagos, studying employment relations and human resources management. Please, what advice would you give concerning certain skills to get my hands on in the midst of this pandemic, or generally being an undergraduate in this field in Nigeria? Olapeju, that's for you from Temi.
Sorry, can you take that again?
Okay, so I'm going to read the question out here from Temi.
Okay.
Temi, it reads, I'm a student in the University of Lagos,
right,
studying employment relations and human resources management.
Mm-hmm.
Please, what advice would you give concerning certain skills to get my hands on in the midst of this pandemic, or generally being an undergraduate in this field?
Okay, thank you, Temi. So I think one of the things that recruiters have even seen now, generally, before you go into the competencies that you need in the HR space, which is, competencies with you even understanding the labor law in the first place, to performance monitoring, to employee relations, talent, and the rest of it. I mean, it's not as popular anymore, but, just within that space, before I go there, recruiters are finding it difficult to find people who are able to write, to communicate effectively. So first of all is your oral and written communication has to be in the right place. Communication has to be in the right place. Your ability to be able to, we find people who are looking for jobs these days who are unable to write a proper cover letter, who are unable to write an email that gives them an edge. So I think communication skills is very important. Now, the world of work is changing very quickly. And there are skills, that the World Economic Forum has put out there. So Temi, if you just Google the World Economic Forum, you will see the skills that are declining and the skills that are rising. Those are the skills that you need to focus on, regardless of your course of study at the moment. Now, more specifically to HR, that's something that, I'm happy to take you through after this. I'm open. That's also my way of giving back, to take you through that. But I think fundamentally as an undergrad, that is what I would look at. The third one is technical skills. So, we're talking about upskilling, reskilling, tech skilling, smart skilling, and future skilling. Those are the, some of the areas that I also tell people to look into on how this is. So apart from even the skills that you need, how do you get skilled? What sort of skills would help you get ahead, in this job market? So for me, as an undergrad, I would say focus on the area of the tech skills, computer literacy. How good is your Microsoft suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint? Because you're going to be doing the grunt work when you come into the workplace. So the first thing I want to see is who is able to quickly, write something, a deck. I want to do a tech deck. You want to do a PowerPoint presentation for me. Are you able to write clear and concise way? Are you able to use the PowerPoint very quickly? Are you able to use Excel to juggle numbers? So I would say computer literacy skills, I would say business writing, and all that, even report writing, and your communication skills in general, whether it's spoken or written. And then also, what was the first one I said? Just the skills that are, and then the skills that are relevant for today. So, there's some skills that are there, but are they relevant for today? Because the skills are changing very quickly. Even within the HR space, the things that are valued are not just everything that we used to do. But again, let me not put it that way. Everything within the HR ambit is valuable, but the areas where you need to really focus on that gets management's attention. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you. We have a response from Temi already. I've definitely learned a lot. Thank you so much, Kweju. A couple of comments are just flying in. Thank you. Emmanuel Okoro says, consistency is key. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Olabi says, concise and explicit presentation. The speaker has done justice to my HR story. Thank you so much. Thank you, Peju. Thank you. Okay, so I have a question here from Olapeju. It reads, how best could one access the strategic thinking skill as an upcoming HR person?
Okay. Well, sometimes strategic thinking almost comes innately for some people, but then it can be learned. It almost comes innately for some people, but then it can be learned. It's just like nature and nurture. So for strategic thinking is really, let's start with what is strategy. Strategy is, where are you? Where do you want to be? So in breaking it down, it's saying, how do you think through that journey of where you are, depending on what the problem is, and where you want to be. And that's really your strategic thinking. That's how you begin to get your strategic thinking capabilities. It's that simple. It can be in, I'm trying to think of an example now. So I don't know where the person is at the moment, but if you have a problem, or there's some new area of interest that the organization is looking into, or say, for example, I've even taken up a challenge recently in helping an NGO come up with how they can partner with another NGO in achieving their objectives. So I look at it and say, and I don't have any, I don't really have expertise in that space. But when I look at what they're trying to achieve, so you look at whatever it is that your boss has said you're trying to achieve, and you look at what it is that they need. So with strategy, there are 4 elements. I'm trying not to be too technical. So with strategy, there are 4 elements. What are the processes? I mean, what's the strategy that the organization is even trying to look at? What are the processes that, processes that you need to put in place? What is the infrastructure that needs to underpin that? And then the people that is required. So that's how you begin to think about, develop your strategic thinking capabilities. Like, what are the, it depends on what it is. I hope I've been able to and not sound too technical in answering that question.
Thank you, Pedro. And I think you were able to explain. So for me, like you mentioned, for some people it comes naturally, and for some people they have to make an effort to learn it. From Gallup's strength, strategic thinking it has to do with, you're able to envision the future, right? And being intentional in your approaches to enable you get to the future that you've envisioned. For instance, just to add to what Pedro had mentioned, if you're someone who you have a plan, so strategic thinking is that point where you're thinking ahead into the future. Okay, I have a plan to build a career in certain industry or in certain field. Then you plan ahead into that. So for instance, I'm in HR, I want to cross to corporate services, or I want to be CEO in the future. The strategic thinking is me, trying to map out how do I get to my destination or to my desired future goals. And it's something every one of us can learn and ensure that we are more intentional in bringing strategic thinking to the things that we do. Thank you so much. So a couple of comments are coming in from Afola Kemi. Says, wow, so much story with clear, many defined goals, opportunities, intentionality, positive mindset, spiritual. Thank you so much, Peju. We have a question here. I really appreciate this platform. It's just what I need at this time. I'd like to know, how can I employ emotional intelligence to assist me in the workplace? I am a recently qualified associate member of CIPM, looking to start a career in the HR department. So what this person is saying, she has her CIPM certificate, but she wants to know, how can she begin to build her emotional intelligence skills?
Okay, well, emotional intelligence has to do with, first, with self-awareness. I think that's it. What is it that you are, and what's that? It's just knowing who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how you're able to address it. And the thing about emotional intelligence, there's an equation that, you know, someone who is an emotional intelligence expert has said that, you know, it's how do you get to your desired positive result? And that has stuck since. You know, how do you get to your desired positive result? So with every time you have an issue, all you want to think about is that whatever it is that I do, I must ensure that the outcome is always a positive one. And how do I master my emotions, which is very important as an HR person to do, such that, because, you know, I found that a number of us let our emotions get, you know, the better side of us, such that, you know, we're unable to take the right decisions and do the right things in the workplace. So right now, I think just mastering your emotional intelligence is you being self-aware of what it is that you have. So who are you? Are you somebody who gets upset? Are you somebody who is able to, you know, who is highly emotional? Are you somebody who, you know, just knowing your own personality and some of your characteristics, the things that people have said about the feedback that you've gotten. A personality profiling would help with that, you know, because when, you know, I don't know that there's any emotional intelligence teaching that does not require to first off do a personality profiling assessment of who you are. So I think that's how you begin to know, to become a more emotionally intelligent person. You know, who are you? What are your attributes? You know, what are you good at? What are you not good at? What do you need to address? And how do you ensure that, you know, these emotions that you express through your personality, through these characteristics, don't get in the way, such that you don't get to a desired positive result, which is really a desired positive outcome at each time that you need to, you know, take a decision on, or do a task, or relate with a person, whatever the case may be.
Okay. Thank you so much, Peju. The questions are pouring in. We have about 10 minutes, ma'am. I hope you can take everything. So we have one question here. It reads, did the speaker experience office politics? And how did she handle scenarios? Looking through her profile and story so far.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very good question. And I want to say that politics is an avoidable organizational behavior, which is here to stay. Whether you like it or not, is here to stay. And you must, at different times, decide how you want to deal with it. However, you will need to have cronies. So some people say, oh, politics is bad. You know, as you grow up through the ranks, you realize that actually politics in itself isn't bad. You may not be a part of the politics, but you may not be the one who is spoiling the politics, but politics will be happening, you know, around you. And so, again, when I say when there's an issue, you have to resolve it. That's how politics is. So it's an issue, is there, it's come to stay. You would have, for me, my view, you should have anyone within the organization, especially HR professionals, you should have your cronies, and you should have a sponsor within the organization. There's a Harris woman, I've forgotten her first name, who gave a TED Talk. And the TED Talk was about you having a sponsor within the organization. Now, that doesn't take away from you. First off, you know, everything I've spoken to is that I have demonstrated, you know, that I am worthy of the position that I own now. So it has nothing to do with, you know, my competence. But now you need somebody who is able to speak for you when you're not there. So when politics is going on, it's your cronies within the organization who let you know what is going on so that you can address it. Sometimes with politics, you actually have to address it, and it may not exactly go in the direction that you want, but that's where emotional intelligence comes in. Emotional intelligence makes you know exactly how to take that thing head on and still maintain a relationship with the individual that maybe you have an issue with. And sometimes you let you know, whatever it is that is happening, go by, because it's not everything that you can address. But at any given opportunity where you have to speak up for yourself. So I get to sit in the boardrooms, I get to sit for board meetings, I get to sit in management meetings. If I've heard from my cronies, and that's why you cannot be, working in silos and say, oh, I'm in my HR department, I don't have any relationship within the organization. That's not going to help you, because you're not going to hear when politicking is going on. So if your cronies tell you things, you don't have to respond to every one of it. The ones you have to, your gut will tell you that this is something that you need to address. The ones you don't, when you get an opportunity to be, because what does it really matter? It matters in the face of those who are going to be dictating your promotion or your bonus or all of that. So those are the people that matter, that they hear the good side of you. When you get an opportunity where they are, you speak for yourself. You make sure that you're on top of what you're doing, and you sell yourself in that moment. That would be my answer to that.
Wow, thank you so much, Peju. I mean, the comments are coming in. Thank you so much. Peju, interesting insight. Sheyi says he loves your response to the questions, very relevant. Ayo says, thank you so much. I'm completely satisfied with the response. Thank you so much. Okay, I have one question here from Idowu. Idowu has asked, with your exciting background and expertise in HR, how are you able to balance your biases and actions at the workplace, bearing that you now oversee other departments and don't give too much to HR above other functions within your business group?
Sorry, Lara, can you take that again? It was breaking, sorry.
Okay. It reads, with your exciting background and expertise in HR, right, how are you able to balance your bias and actions at the workplace, bearing that you now oversee other departments and don't give too much to HR above other functions within your business group?
Okay. And that's a very good question. I like the question in that, again, if you're very passionate about what you do, sometimes you find yourself actually giving more to that space. But let me say that I have technically moved away from HR coming up to 2 years. So what I did was to ensure that, I got a competent hand who can run, so recruited a competent hand who runs HR, and that's the same level of support is what I give to that person that I give to the head of IT, the head of finance, and the head of admin. So, I've just managed to, initially, I don't even think that I struggled, because I guess just that desire to ensure that you succeed in every endeavor. So with every new area that has come in is to say, I've allocated time for each of them, and it's the same amount of time. Now, what it is that the HR person is going to get quicker and more support from me, not with regards to the time that I give, but with regards to the wealth of experience that I have, such that the person is able to quickly solve their problems within that space. So if there's an issue that the head of HR has, I'm able to provide, more insights and just, provide quick answers, as opposed to me still trying to understand. I mean, like in the finance area, there's still things that I need to better understand. I think, in a few years now, I mean, having overseen that division for some time, I think I already have a hang of it. But initially, I would have to sit with the person for longer before being able to, provide very spot on almost immediately, without having to, draw from other people's experiences or insights in that space, or just even, getting to understand what the problem of the unit head is. So I think that's how I've been able to do it. So there is no bias towards the HR function. I think I have a fair balance of providing support to every division within every unit within my division.
Okay, thank you. I have one last question for you. So there was a recent survey and conversation that was trending on LinkedIn, on social media a couple of weeks back, around women or female bosses being very difficult to work with. You know, and everyone, we had a lot of feedback from the survey pool that shows that female bosses are more difficult to work with than male bosses. What's your view on this?
Thank you, Lara. Thank you. And then that's a question, Lani, because for we women, I think why we haven't been even talking about women till now is, I think this is an area that, but to hear this narrative is one that, you know, I struggle with. But let me say that if I would take a stab at that, over the years, women have been placed in positions where they need to constantly fight for respect, you know, which has resulted in them, you know, deliberately putting up tough personalities. Because you see, the thing about being a tough boss is it has nothing to do with the gender, to be honest. I think if you're a difficult boss, you're a difficult boss, regardless of whether you are a woman or a man. But I think women haven't faced some of these challenges in the workplace where they do not get respect. For example, a lot of our traditional, cultural, you know, practices have come into the workplace such that there's subjugation within the workplace, there's marginalization.
True.
So a woman who feels that if I don't put up a tough outlook, I'm going to be disrespected, is just going to say, well, this is the outlook I'm going to have. But that's a mistake, because you can't have that across the board. And with the sort of environment that we HR professionals are trying to create now, to make sure that you have an enabling environment where productivity is high and the organization is delivering its result, I think that will be picked up very, very quickly. You know, some women have suffered it. I mean, I'm not totally oblivious of the fact that I've had people who said they've been in situations where, you know, they've been disrespected. And so that's the outlook that they would have. However, in my personal view, if I were to look back at all the supervisors that I have personally worked with, I've had better relationships with the female gender than the male gender. And the males have been good as well. But in my personal view, I would say that I've had, you know, because women are quite, you know, quite maternal in nature, you know, that instinct comes with them being empathetic towards things. So apart from the job itself, they do care about, you know, your personal life. That is what I have found. So, you know, I don't know where the narrative is coming from, but if a survey is being done, it means that it is true. But if that's the case, we female bosses then need to come together to do better, to change this, because that shouldn't be the narrative out there. We're the ones campaigning for equality, we're the ones campaigning for fairness. I mean, every HR person should be campaigning for a better workplace and should be the ones who are driving it. And I give you an example. At the last Christmas party that we had, because I'm actually someone who set boundaries, I'm someone who is, I would say I'm a bit strict. I was very surprised that in the entire organization, I was given the cheerleader of the year. And I was I was walking past the MC when my name, because it's usually anonymous and, you know, I don't get to see those things. And I was giving that. So, and I'm a female boss, so I doubt very much that I'm a difficult boss. Yeah.
I mean, you said it all. Thank you so much, Peju. Thank you. We have just one last question from Bukola. She's had to post this question like twice already. Okay. But I think you already mentioned some of what she's asked, but it would be nice for you to just say it again. It says, thank you, Ma, for the insightful session. Please, what are the current job requirements to function effectively in the HR space? Current
requirements, I already talked about it. I think first off, in writing your exams, your you know, either the CIPM or, you know, a foreign HR exam, maybe one of the ones with the SHREM would actually help you in outlining some of those skills that you require in the competency. So your compensation and benefits still remains one competence that you need to have. and performance monitoring, performance management, talent management those are some of the things. In terms of the skills, business writing is a skill that is important for us in our organization. In terms of organizational skills as well, is very important. The use of technology as well is very important. So whether it's HR or not, there are many things that you're doing. You're using your HRS, the ability to use the latest or the one that any organization you work for currently uses in keeping records and, sort of running their processes is one that you need to be familiar with in terms of the knowledge to have in that. Many skills that are also, transferable depending on, I don't know where this person is that you have in a certain area that you can bring into HR, but the knowledge of the HR practice itself is very important.
Wow. Thank you so much, Peju. Thank you. It's been an amazing session. Thank you. Lots and lots of insights. A couple of comments are just coming in. Thank you. Thank you, Peju, for this. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you. Your story and response to all the questions asked will sure help me become a better person and HR Damiro. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I think on this note, we've exited 1 hour. And Peju, how can people reach out to you? You want to share your email or your social media handle if anyone would like to reach out to you?
Yes. I'll share my email address.
Okay, Peju, email address, okay.
Yes, so Peju too. Okay, let me just type it there.
Okay, please type in your email address so people can feel free to email you if they have any further questions.
Yes.
On any other areas that they need, yes, clarifications. So thank you so much, Peju. I'm really, really grateful for your time. I mean, you said a lot. And for me, it's really around being open. It's really around being passionate about helping other people to also find their own truths as you share yours with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for making out time. It's been really an interesting, fun learning session, just listening to stories so we can all learn from one another. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. On that note, I would like to
sorry, Lara, I think,
yes? Okay.
I think I put the wrong email. I'm just retyping it now.
Okay, all right, we'll wait for that.
Okay, I have sent the right one. That's it, that's my email address, yes. Happy to take any questions, happy to, walk you through, any situation, So
okay, Peju, we can't see the email address yet.
Peju to Excel, so it's Peju figure 2, Excel at gmail.com.
Let me just type it out. Peju,
it's privately. Sorry, I was sending it to Koforola. I didn't know it wasn't to everybody. Let me just write it
not to everyone. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
Just
so we
type that now.
Okay. Bolanle says, thank you so much for this session. It's wonderful having the guest share with us. Thank you. Thank you, Bolanle. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to announce that our next series comes up on the 27th of September. That's in 2 weeks' time. We're going to have another female guest who will be coming up to share her story with us. It's someone that we all know very well. She's very active on social media. It's Dupe Akisui. So we'll be having Dupe join us next 2 Sundays. By 2 p.m. to also share her story. And I think a lot of us will learn from her because Dupe is someone who's really passionate about building leadership capability, and she's gone ahead to earn certifications in that. And she's very active, she's open, and she's someone who I believe would all learn greatly from her story. So on that note, I want to thank everyone for making our time once again to learn and share. Thank you, Peju. We are really grateful. And it's an honor once again. Thank you. So Everyone, if you can go off mute and just let's hear your voice. Let's say thank you to Peju. I'm going to unmute everyone
Thank
now.
you,
ma'am.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
We are so
ma'am.
grateful
Great
for this
session. Thank you,
opportunity.
Lara.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
God
much,
bless
Peju.
you,
God
ma.
bless you.
God bless you,
Thank you,
ma.
Coach Lara.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Coach
Thank
Lara.
you, Lara.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so,
blessed.
so
Thank
much.
you.
This is
Thank you,
Lara.
everyone.
Really
Thank
appreciate.
you.
Really, really appreciate.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Peju.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Enjoy your week.
Mommy, I'm hungry. Give me food or else.
Give me food or else.
Please,
Or else what?
Or
mommy,
else
please
what?
give that child food or else.
You know, these children,
Else they're going to go on strike.
I'm telling you,
That's so bold and confident. Oh, I like
I
that.
know. Or else.
Or else. Oh, that's so sweet to hear. Mommy, please give us food. We are hungry. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again.